Good evening, class. And once again, you're welcome back to Data Governance Made Easy or Data Governance in Organizations, where we discuss how organizations develop governance processes to responsibly manage and protect information and information related resources. It has been a very hectic week with rain and with football and so many other things. I know most of you are tired, and we'll try and finish quite early today. So let's go straight to what we do. As I mentioned during the week, on the class platform, what's on WhatsApp, the book on the meta governance made easy is available on Amazon. It's also available in the class in Legon Bookshop, University of Ghana bookshop on campus. You can get a copy to buy from them. You'll get a grayscale version, kind of not the colored version if you buy it from Amazon. But at least you can get one that you can start using. So if you want to pick it up, please try and pick it up. They don't have a lot of copies now. If you go and just finish, let them write your name and then phone number so that as soon as some come, they'll call you. Otherwise, it will go faster and you may not get some. Because we are not the only ones using it. The undergrads are also using it for another data governance class, and other students are also using it. So try and get a copy. If a friend is going to buy one, you can let him buy one for you if you can't go there in person. Thank you very much. So IT policies, security, and privacy, the second section of our or chapter of our book, or the second section of our meeting. So we want today to talk about what IT and IS policies are and what and how they are used in organizations and how organizations develop them. Good. So why IT policies exist at all? And the four-level document hierarchy or types of IT governance mechanisms or IS governance mechanisms, security policy and privacy policy. We look at the Samsung case, Samsung privacy policy. Then we also go to the five-phase policy lifecycle, and we go to six design considerations. The University of Michigan also has a set of policies. And if possible, when there's time, we'll look at more different types of policies from different types of organization. Okay, so without much ado, let's delve into it. So ask yourself, when was the last time you read the privacy policy of an organization or of an app that you are going to use? You went to their website or you downloaded the app and you're going to use it and they gave you some fine notes to read. And did anybody read them? Or you don't usually read them? The IT policy, the policies that govern some of the apps you use. Did you get time to spend time to read them? Yes. Let me hear from you. Do you really read them? Anne Marie, have you read any of them before?
No, please.
You just click yes and continue. Anne Marie, so does it mean that you just accept and you continue?
Yes. Most times that's what I do.
But when you buy a blender too, you also don't read the instructions and you go ahead and use it.
Oh, that one I'll read the instructions.
So the app that's on your phone you read, but the blender you read. Anyway, interesting. What about the manual that comes with it, your car, your brand new car? Will you read? You're not sure.
No,
You you
I
want your
don't read
husband
it.
or your husband to realize to show you how to drive it and just quickly. Okay. Anyway, when you buy an EV, sometimes it comes with a manual that's very interesting. You may want to read the EV manual. It's just like a full manual. Anyway, when you people usually don't read and they assume they understand what is there, then they just go ahead. But those documents are usually written for us because they are supposed to guide us to be able to efficiently use this or responsibly use these particular devices or equipment. So no organization technology data can run dependably in a strategic vacuum. They need something to guide it. Usually, our IS or IT policy is a high-level formal document or statement issued and approved by senior management that sets out the organization's vision, strategy, and principles, which they will use to manage and protect its information and information technology resources, its information and other technology resources. So, one, it is formal and sometimes written, and it's also written in version. So, they say version one, version two, or the one that was passed in a particular year. Then they will have high level. So, usually, it's not very key, lengthy document, more about the principles, and it's approved, or the authority comes from senior management, it comes from the top. So that's what you see. And then we have them because they help us to be able to strategically align information technology or information systems operation with the business operations or the business policy or the business direction. Where is the business going? How can we align IT to it? Number two, it gives us guidance on what we can do and what we cannot do, what's acceptable in the use of technology in the organization. And lastly, it tells us what it can cover. Sometimes and who can use what. So how is information produced? How is information consumed? For example, if a guest comes to your institution, should he be given an access, a guest account to be able to use the internet in the office? Such particular policies will govern all of these things. So if you tell them that, oh, we don't have a guest account, then you may be forced, employees may be forced to give them their own account for their guests to use it. But if a guest comes for a formal visit, the company should also have a formal way of receiving and providing the resources that can make the time that he spends with the organization meaningful. So if you have to give him access to some of the a computer, what is consider to do within an IT policy? But there are several different types of um documents that we can use or mechanisms we can use to manage authority or govern information related resources and organizations. At the high level, we have the policy, which is done by the board. It's strategic and it's mandatory, full of principles to guide us. Then we have the standard. The standard is also specific technical requirements, usually at the unit level, defined from or inherited from the policy to be able to guide behavior and ensure compliance, maybe at a unit level, but it may be more specific and technical than what a policy may do. A policy may say that we every login interface should have a secure password, but the secure password will be defined. The number of letters and what should be in a secure password can be defined by the standard. But the principle of having a secure password, which meets some particular criteria, and it's not easily guessed, cannot be easily guessed. All these things can be specific, can be principled within the policy. Then the standard will come and give us specific technical requirements that and rules or configurations that will govern the password formulation. Guideline then can then be a non-mandatory but best practice. For example, some organizations, they may just say that, okay, a strong password guideline might recommend memorable passphrases over single words and a voluntary change over a few months. But sometimes I've seen University of Ghana, the voluntary change is a standard that every 3 months or every 2 months, your password has to change. So it's a standard. That one is a mandatory thing. But any other institutions they will recommend to you. For example, even your Windows machine just recommends to you. It may not insist. It may recommend to you so that you should change your password. So and your password should be recommended memorable passphrases instead of using single words. These are all recommendations so that you can be able to follow the best practice as recommended by the security team in your organization. So they are advisory and non-mandatory. Standards are specific, technical, strictly mandatory, written by IT leads, architects, security officers, and they enforce the parent policy that we are obeying. So Agnes J-Wap upon your hand is up.
I'm going to ask them. Can I continue? The day after 20 days for your carpet, after 20 days, they ask you to change your carpet. Would that one all understand that? Like, you have to change it, or you can't log in.
If you can't log in, then it's mandatory. Then it's a standard.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can't log in, it's a mandatory, so it's a standard. So at the top part, it's very concrete and strategic and abstract. But as you come down, it becomes much more um, 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 operational at the base. Sorry, concrete at the base, strategic and abstract at the top. So more specific, more granular at the base, step by step at the base, but more binding and more abstract and strategic at the top. But one problem is that quite a number of people tend to say that all policies are the same, all governance mechanisms, organizations are the same. They are not the same. They play different roles. They are not the same. They play different roles. Policies are set as principles and allocate authority. Everything below it must conform. It's like a constitution. Then the acts of parliament is like the standard that are more specific. Then official guidance laws are like guidelines, recommended good practice where rigid rules will not fit a case. So sometimes something may happen, like AI has come, and instead of going ahead to just develop an AI policy, they may do AI guidelines. That over time, then they may introduce the policy. University of Ghana, for example, when online learning came in somewhere in 2020, because of COVID, we needed a policy. But because we're now understanding how COVID was and we are now being introduced to Zoom and all these other things, we went with guidelines. Then that was formulated in 2021, passed in 2022. Then later in 2026 now, we have a policy for teaching and learning. So the policy for teaching and learning has a date which says 2026. I think I've uploaded this once in the class book on the Sakai page. So the policy 2026 teaching and learning. In there, they have a statement for online teaching and learning. So if you click on it, there's a statement here. Faculty and staff must consult the university online teaching and learning guidelines, which came during just after COVID, for details of conducting online teaching and learning. So if you don't want to know about teaching and learning, go to this one. Now that one, I work with a committee to do that. So if you look at it very carefully, um, let me just open it. Just give me a second. So if you look at it, we finished our work in 2021. The university passed it in 2022. So, and this is how detailed it is. The teaching and learning policy is quite just about 14 pages, but this is about 41 pages, covering every single thing. Assessment, online recording, photocopy, everything is in here. So those are the big difference. So we brought this one, and with time, after some time, we brought the policy. After some time, we brought the policy. So as our slides was saying, you could actually start with a guideline where rigid rules will not fit every case. Then later on, when you have better understanding, the policy or standard will come and it might not come and overrule it, or it will come and um, be the mother policy that instructs it and makes and tells everybody to conform with the guideline or procedure. Now, so we have agreed policies tend to matter. Policies tend to matter. So policies speak speaks in principles, high level abstract, strictly mandatory, state what must be true, and never how to make it true. How to make it true will come from the document that we mentioned. That's the standard. Or, for example, a corporate access policy could say like all enterprise information access must be protected by against unauthorized access, and access rights must follow the principle of least privilege. The principle of least privilege. So if you are not required to have access to a particular device or a particular, you are not mandated to have access to something, you don't give you access. will only give you access to what you are is being defined that you should have access to. You are not permitted to see some information, you will not see that information. You will only be given access to what you are being given and will be permitted to have access to. And it's important that we are not just discretionary and just change our policies because it will suit somebody else. Standards where the numbers live. Specific technical system mandatory. We use those ones to guide us in specifying the technical requirements that will enact the policy. The guidelines then will come in as advisory and best practice. Procedure will rather be step-by-step, operational and mandatory. Sometimes it's the step-by-step matter because if you lose one step, you may either have an error or you may not be able to get whatever you are trying to do, you may not get done. So somebody may have a step-by-step process of using Sakai for examination or for assessment. And it may strictly inform us on what to do and what not to do. Okay, so policy, standard, and guideline of procedure. An example again here, all customer data at rest must be encrypted with AES 256 and encryption standard. That's what says, so this is a standard, very specific and technical. To reset a password, open the help desk, verify your ID, follow the email link within 15 minutes. That's a procedure. The organization information access in proportion to their value, and the organization protects information access in proportion to their value and their sensitivity. That's a policy. Where possible, hardware security keys to SMS codes. Where possible, prefer hardware security keys to SMS codes for two-factor signing. It's a guideline. Where possible, guideline, where possible, guideline. Okay. So this is what we may come across. Now, when we look at it, beyond the four that we have just mentioned, when we apply to organizations, we can have different types of policies. So one can be a data security policy, and then another one could be a privacy policy. The two documents do most of the heavy lifting, and they are easy to confuse them because they both concern data. Now, the data security policy is the umbrella. The privacy policy is a subset or derives its validity, its essence from the data security policy. Why? Privacy looks at individual rights, consent, people having the right to consent to a particular information or right to allow somebody to have access to a particular information, transparency in terms of the use of that information, and then they be informed or they being able to refuse that nobody should collect the specific data about them, or the device shouldn't be used to collect specific data about them. Data security policy is more about establishing that the three key principles of information security is achieved: confidentiality of the information, integrity of the information, and availability of information for use, and availability by the permitted people. Now, that one is focusing on internal audience. They may use things, access prohibition methods or access authentication methods. They may bring in encryption. Then they may also have incident reporting to report anytime there's a breach. But that incident reporting is not necessarily a privacy policy. A privacy policy will just state the person's right in concerning the information. So look at the two different types. And after I will take an example from Amazon. Now, the primary purpose of a data privacy policy is define how the organization protects data from unauthorized access, breach, alteration, and loss. That's the data security policy. But the privacy policy will tell how the organization collects, uses, shares, and protects their personal data, you the user. Now, the data security policy will be more oriented towards an internal audience, employees, contractors, IT staff, anyone handling the corporate data. The privacy policy may be more forward-facing. If you come and interact with our platform and we are asking for information, this is why we are asking for the information. But you have right to refuse that information sharing or right to restrict how we use the information. All that one is about customer site visitors, data, some people collect data around about, and then regulators. The core objective for a privacy policy is to ensure transparency, user control, legal compliance, and trust. While that of a security policy is to do what? The CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Now, when you look at privacy policy, they will lean towards access controls, mechanisms, encryption mechanisms, multi-factor authentication, that's MFA, backing up physical security, and then incident response. Whilst a privacy policy will put in the disclosure measures, the use of your information, disclosure on third parties and how they will use your information, and why not we don't share your information with third parties. How we will store your information either through cookies or through automatic password saving, or number two, user rights and contact details, what we collect, and if you have any dispute about it, who to contact. So the regulatory drivers could be the fact that at the international level for privacy, it could be the GDPR, which is from the European Union, or even in Ghana, the Data Act, the Data Protection Act, which is A843. Then you also have other ISO standards that can help us to be able to adhere to security policies. Then the HIPAA coming from the health sector in the US could also be one of them. Okay, so let me just ask this question before we jump into Amazon. Two documents, one organization, one of the test it on your own bank or telco. Pick an organization you both use, your bank and your bank MTN, Vodafone or delivery app. Find out its public privacy policy on your phone. So you can quickly go online and then check. Let's see whether you can find MTN Ghana privacy policy. So they have something like that, and what does it say? So it has they have a data protection. So privacy is about your information and what we use it for. And it says very external. Any person who contracts with us, any person who uses our website, we said privacy is external. So you can see that they say it is for those who are external. You can read it yourself. Let me just zoom in a little bit. I don't know. Okay, good. All suppliers and contractors and service providers of MTN, including potential suppliers, resellers of MTN and distributors and agents, MTN Ghana Foundation applicants, and others. So I think largely the external. I think I won't say this is internal. A supplier may not necessarily be internal, but a contractor could be internal. But at the end of the day, you have all of them here. But largely they are all external. Then they define who they are. So who is the data subject? What does it mean? These are terminologies are going to refer. Personal data, what does it mean? Processing, what does it mean? So a very good policy would always have the definition of terms in it. Then they'll go on to talk about what personal data does MTN collect, what are we collecting, what are we using, how are we processing it. Good. Then where does MTN Ghana collect your personal data from? When you buy or use our products, when you use our network, when you register for specific service or product, when you subscribe to newsletters, contact us through various channels, take part in competition, visit our website, give permission to other companies to share information about by you, all the same. Then we can also collect information from certain organizations where appropriate and to extend to have legal grounds to do so. So things like credit check, they may collect information. They may also share your information to this fraud in case the police come and ask. Social media platforms, marketing agencies. Now, then they also mentioned that MTN Ghana may use, so they are very bad though. They are not actually bolding the questions. So they are all flat in one way that if you don't take it, you don't even see where the key things you should look out for. For what purposes does MTN use, Ghana use your data? This should be bolding. If anybody hears from MTN, tell them that the key headings in it should be bold so that people can identify it. When we look at the Samsung one, you see they have done that excellently. But this one, the way they have done everything, if you're looking for information, you don't take your time, you don't even see it. Verification, credit checks, or are you hiding information? MTN, are you hiding information? Okay, then how do you process your personal data? In fact, look at this one like this. It's another question slipped in here. We can't even see it. Is MTN Ghana allowed to process my personal data? Is here. What their legal obligation, performance of a contract. This is actually the same thing as Samsung one. They do that because of performance of a contract, legal obligation, and legitimate interest of Ghana, of MTN Ghana or third party. Okay. Is it mandatory to provide MTN Ghana the personal data asked for? It's not mandatory for you to provide any personal data to us. The data requested will help you to get the services. So if you don't want the services, then you can actually also you don't need to give it to us. But if you want the service, you have to give it to us. If you don't give it to us, maybe the service will not be efficient, will not be perfectly or efficiently provided to you or delivered to you, because some of the information need your consent before some of the services can run even on your phone. MTN Ghana does. MTN Ghana process my personal data automatically? He said, no, we will not subject you to automated decision-making processing unless appropriate measures have been taken to protect your legitimate interest. This one, you have to be careful about it. When you call a line and then sometimes I think MTN too has it. When you call their customer service, for some of the inquiries, it's automated. So like if you need your balance, they can automatically, the computer can check and tell you your balance. But if you want to talk to somebody about maybe Momo, a Momo agent, about a Momo customer service personnel, about your money that has been erroneously taken or something like that, you need to talk to a person. But if there's any part of it that your MTN processes and lets a computer does it, then it's actually defeating the statement, because we will not subject you to automated decision-making processing unless appropriate measures have been taken to protect your legitimate interest. So they have to tell us that when you process and automatically my use the system to process and then output my balance to me automatically, it means that you have done this. I hope you have protected my interest, like my ID details that you use to be able to process the request I wanted, like balance. Number two, decision is based on your explicit consent. Okay, maybe you have they're saying yes somewhere. We said yes to it. I don't know. I've not read everything in the fine print when you are signing up. Mhm. How long does MTN keep my data? There's a statement in the Act for 843 concerning this about how long they can keep your data. So retention of the person is required or authorized by the data protection card and any other. Okay, so it says it will not retain unless it's required by them. There's a statement that shows when it is required, or you are considered to retention of your personal data, or the personal data is required for historical, statistical, and research purposes. If that's the case, then MTN will say that everybody's data is being kept, because they will use everybody's data for historical, statistical, and research purposes, provided that we have established appropriate safeguards. So if MTN has data about me in the past and somehow it gets leaked, I can use this one against them, because it means that you didn't establish appropriate safeguards against my personal data being used for any other purposes. For example, I see it being used in Nigeria to do analysis about Ghanaian MTN customers and Nigerian MTN customers. There's a problem. So this is quite fun. What I like about this is that at the end of the day, they also put in information on who, if you want to know more, you can contact their group data privacy at mtn.com. And then if you also want to report them, you have got the right to contact the Ghana Data Protection Commission, which is at East Legon, and they have put the information here. Very good and very transparent. Very, very good and very transparent. And they also tell that they reserve the right to modify this privacy notice from time to time. Very good there. Very good one there. Very good one there. Yes. Okay. The grammar you are back again. Hmm. So now let's look at the Samsung one. I think with the video we're watching, there's a summary of it, but let's look at it. The Samsung one is in your class. It should be in your class platform for Sakai. But let me put it here. The Michigan one too. Let me put it here. But let's get Samsung one first. Because Samsung one has very interesting sections. I want you to go through them and see some of the things that are of interest to you. So just like MTN, what information do we collect? They collect information about your usage log, location information, voice information, and they use telemetry. Some of the things is automated. As you are using it, it's sending information to them in Korea. So, okay, information received from third parties. Other information we call third party analytics. How do we use your information? You see how it's bold. Mhm. So we use your information for so many things. They even talk about the fact that they use it for providing personalized and generalized advertising. Okay. Now, they said for those who are in the European Union area, Samsung processes personal information for the purposes described above. Samsung's legal basis to process personal information also includes processing so that we can keep our promise to you. That's performance contract. So they will say that every information of yours that they have been processing, if you say no, then you have to leave Samsung. Why? Because MTN also said the same thing. Because of performance contract, we process that information so that we can keep our promise to you. To promote our business right, legitimate interests, for example, to manage our relationship with you, improve our customer service experience, and provide generic ads. Then to comply with the law and legal processes, and with your consent, for example, to send you personal advertising and marketing operations. So these are the four reasons why they may do so. Who do we share your information with? Subsidiaries, business partners, service providers, there are other parties required by law, other parties in connection with the transaction, corporate transactions, other parties. Okay, let's continue. Other parties, your consent at your discretion. How do we keep your information secure? So it mentions that. And for those in the European Union, we will comply with applicable European data protection law when transferring your personal information outside Europe. We may transfer your information to countries which have not been found to provide, which have been found, or we may transfer your personal information to countries which have been found to provide adequate protection of your information by relevant data protection authority, including the Republic of Korea. So they have the right to carry your information in the Republic of Korea because they think that the Republic of Korea has adequate data protection policies to guide the information that they are bringing there. The measures we take to safeguard the transfer of your information include the use of standard contractual clauses as approved by a relevant data protection authority. To request more information to obtain the standard contractual clauses we rely on, contact us. Hey, what are your rights? Okay. You can ask us to restrict or limit reprocessing, sharing or transfer of your personal information. You can object to our processing of your personal information where we rely on legitimate business interests. Okay. How long do we keep your information? Okay. We will not keep your information for longer than is necessary. I like that statement. So how do you define longer than is necessary? For the purpose of which it was collected. This means that the information we destroy or erase from our system when it is no longer required. Can be 30 years, 100 years. We take appropriate steps to ensure that we process and retain information about you. Now, they can pick anything about you and share it. Hmm. So, for example, among other purposes, this technology help us to do the following: remember your information so that we will not have to re-enter it. Track your personal, track and understand how you use and interact with services. Personalize the services of your preferences. Manage and measure the usability services. Understand the effectiveness of our communications. Improve our services. So, if you have any issue, contact us. They put the information there, and the email to is down there. So they pick information about us. They listen to us. They have access to our recordings. Some of the things is very, very scary. Look at this one. Recordings of your voice that we may make. and collect on our service when you are enable this function and use voice commands. Hey, those of you are using voice commands and things at home, note that the voice command is working because Samsung has a copy of it on their machine. We also collect and store recordings of your voice when you contact the customer service. That one we know. Note that if you work with a third-party provider that provides speech-to-text conversion services or call center services on our behalf, this provider may also receive your voice commands. Note that. The words you type in your phone as to enable predictive text. So as you are typing, it will be ending your sentences for you. That one too, they keep it. Now, your diagnostic and technical error, usage information such as the time and duration of use of services, how long you spent on specific websites, they keep it. Services installed on your devices, apps you are using, they keep it. Search and query items, what you have been searching on your phone, they keep it. Okay. So there's quite a number of things. Your IMEI number, the unique device identifiers, such as your mobile country code, your mobile network code, your MAC address, your IP address, serial number, device unique IDs, all these are kept, recorded. Okay. Anybody scared about something has just seen? Yeah, anybody scared or surprised? You didn't know that you have seen something that's it has scared you. Mm. Stella, yes, you can go ahead.
Prof. Please,
Mhm.
I don't know, but there's this notion that when you are speaking, even though you are not giving a voice command to the phone, sometimes you're able to pick up some pieces of your conversation, and when you start browsing, you notice those things coming up. I'm wondering if they
Yes,
are
that one.
able to also take that data from us when
Yes,
we are speaking without even using the voice command.
yes. Even if you're not using the voice command, the phone is aware of what you are saying. Okay, so let's look at some of the things. For example, SIM one, the information you hand over, and the information, the things that you buy. So, for example, account details, you handed over that one, date of birth, phone, billing address, all of these are things you enter in the phone. Verification, chat history, voice recordings, all of things that you put in the phone. Telemetry is combined with commercially available profiles and partner data to sharpen the demographic. So even data you never give Samsung can end up in your profile. Note it. Because they may not know your account, but they know certain types of things that you are actually doing with that app. So, for example, your Galaxy phone will automatically put these things down: voice and typing, audio sent to speech to text servers, keystrokes that train predictive tests, diagnostics reports, crash dumps, and stream back for analysis. Now, your phone, when it receives a call, activates the voice, the mic, and the mic picks information. Now, sometimes you know that you can do automated recording. Now they have added it to it. Now, the time you're not been doing automated recording, the thing also picks information about what you are saying. It may not be interpreting it, but it may be picking the information. For example, how long you spoke, who you frequently talk to, and there may be specific words that keep on recurring in the conversation, like as heights, as highs in the information. It may be able to automatically do that. Now, MAC address, IP addresses, serial numbers, advertising IDs, smart TV service IDs, nearby Wi-Fi, cell towers, precise coordinates. The last only with the explicit consent, so it may record information. Now, this telemetry runs continuously all the time and silently. It's the stream users least understand and one regulators one and then one regulator scrutinize hardest. So they most of the day try to find out whether it's doing more than it's supposed to do. But I believe that some of the phones, the thing is doing more than people even can even imagine, or regulators can even trace. Now, throughout the whole Samsung policy, there are certain things that they are adhering to because of EU. One, performance contract, what we said we'll give you, whether we are doing it accordingly, especially in delivering of services related to the product, such as repair, such as return services, such as continuous functionality of the phone as a phone. Legitimate interest, using diagnostic telemetry to protect networks, analyze defects, verify warranty, and prevent fraud. So sometimes Samsung can be able to tell that you intentionally use the phone to hit the floor by looking at maybe where the type of impact the phone went through, because they may have put certain things concerning its ability to identify where it is. For example, your geographic location, where it is, and where, so it has a sense of where it is. Why is it that when your phone falls, it's able to rotate the screen and you put it there? Because it has a sense of balance, a sense of the fact that the screen has been rotated and it should re-rotate it to be able to get the right screen. All of these things are senses in the phone. Why is it that when you bring the phone closer to your face, it's able to identify you and unlock? Or sometimes if it is dark, if it's gone dark mode, as soon as it sees your face, it brings it back. The light comes in and the phone screen allows more light and it gives some brightness. It's because the camera is always on in a subtle manner to be able to for it to be able to do so. So some things are there, they are inherent in the services we are requesting. Just that sometimes what they are built in is what it can store and what it cannot store, what it can send and what it cannot send. And most of our governance institutions like data protection are supposed to do research with these devices. But I wonder whether even Ghana Data Protection Commission is doing any research on the phones that are sold on the market to know which of them is more vulnerable to us or not. I don't know. It doesn't mean they're not doing, but I hope they and the standards board will be doing some research on the devices that are being imported into the country. You know that some of the new cars that come can record, do in-car recording, voice, video, and then and even when it is parked and you have switched the car off and you have gone, if it's activated, it can still do. So in BYD cars, there's something, and in Huawei cars, they talk about sentry mode. It can record around it, everything that is taking place around it, take pictures of it and store it. So the car that is, you say that you are parked and locked, it is still alive, sensitive, knows. It can even download and download software from China whilst it's sitting down, shut down. Because there's a SIM card in it that can talk to China, but it might not talk to a SIM card here. There's a cell tower that it can be able to talk to. Sometimes they give you 5 gig when you buy it. And when that the data on it gets finished, you may have to talk to, you have to use your Wi-Fi to update your car yourself. So for the BYD card, they can update themselves without even asking your permission. Now, if the car can update itself without even asking your permission, that means that the car can be shut down without your permission too. I'm not saying don't buy BYD, please. It is with almost where we are going to. The same way, we have just gotten to know that information is being picked and sent to Korea on our Galaxy phones. We all didn't know. Some of you didn't know, but it is being told us right now from their own privacy information. Now, even this is not what the privacy information for European Union. They are telling you. What about the one they bring to Ghana? They don't even tell us anything. Do you know what they have been sending? Copying concerning us. We go there and go and bring new phones from China. On now, all kinds of different types of phones, and come and sell it very cheap here. But we don't know what you are committing ourselves to. Don't be scared, but I'm just letting you understand that be sensitive. For example, when you have to shut down the phone, shut it down. It's lying by your side in bed, and you are busy doing other things. It may be recording, you don't know. It may be silently observing as a third partner. It may not record your videos and things, but it may have awareness of what is happening around it. So when you have to shut it down. Okay. Rule of thumb: the more optional and invasive they use, the closer it is to explicit consent. So sometimes they will ask you like third-party advertising and stuff. But hackers also use all the third-party advertising to hack into your machine. So let's look at this one. What the data used to illegal basis. Your shipping address. Your shipping address is processed to deliver the phone you ordered. Is it by contract, legitimate interest, legal option, legal obligation, explicit consent, or yeah, what is it? I think it's by contract, as it's stated there. Your shipping address is processed to deliver the phone where you ordered. It's contract, yes. Crash dumps from your device are analyzed to spot a defective batch, legitimate interest, so that they can prove what they are giving to you. Your purchase record is kept for 7 years for tax authority, legal obligation. Your voice profile unlocks the device. It's not that your picture unlocks the device. Your facial recognition or your face unlocks the device and personalizes Bixby per explicit consent. You have to agree before you to do that. Your location history powers ads from Samsung partners, explicit consent. But sometimes it's very subtle. You may not see. We have said yes without even knowing. So Samsung is headquartered in the Republic of Korea. So the customer data routinely leaves its country of origin. Four mechanisms that keep the movement lawful and safe. One, adequate decisions. Formal agreements such as EU and Republic of Korea adequacy decision. Recognizing Korean law is protecting data to a GDPR equivalent level. So Korea law has been done in such a way that it respects the GDPR requirements, and so they don't have a problem when information leaves the EU and go to Korea. Number two, pre-approved legal binding terms that governs transfers to subsidiaries and partners in country without an adequacy decision. They use a standard contractual clause between them and that particular firm. So if your country is not listed, then they may have to have something with an institution there to allow certain types of information to flow. Technical safeguards, encryption in transit and at rest. So the information is never sitting down as is. When the information is on your phone, it's encrypted. When it's being traveled, it's encrypted. The iPhone does that one very well. The information on the phone is encrypted. Only you can have knowledge about it and know what to do with it. But as it's in transit too, it's encrypted. Minimization and retention. Personal data is kept only as long as it's needed to deliver a service, meet tax duties, and also they may ask what is only required to meet a service. A music app may just ask information about billing so that you can be able to bill you, send you a service concerning your subscription for the music that you have actually, or to buy the music itself. So it will have information concerning billing and access that one. Good. But as soon as it has information concerning billing, that's the same billing information you're using for other things. So you have to be very careful. Okay. So audit the Galaxy bought in Germany, processed in Korea. It's possible. An EU citizen buys a device in Berlin. Their telemetry, information on the phone, which automatically is sent to flows to what headquarters in Seoul. Map every mechanism that makes the transfer lawful. The four things that we mentioned make it lawful. One, adequacy decisions between the two countries. Number two, standard contractual clauses may be there to protect. So even if the third party is not registered, it may guide Samsung whether they can go ahead or not. Technical safeguards, encryption in trusting, encryption at rest. And lastly, data minimization. The information that is collected is always respective to what is needed. All other information that is not needed by the app or by the device will not be collected. But so sometimes you may realize that one app may collect more information than the other app. Yeah. Okay. Good. Any questions so far? Then before we jump into how we develop the policies. Any questions so far? Any question? David, are you okay?
Yes, Prof. I'm following. Okay.
Or the rain is disturbing you?
No, it's not.
Okay. The way your voice is now, it looks like you're an England supporter.
Are they playing
You're getting
today?
ready to. No, you're getting ready to shout when we are playing them.
Ah, in that
Mhm.
regard.
Okay. So there are 5 steps in developing a policy. First of all, we need to identify, plan, and initiate it. Identification, planning, initiation phase is about establishing that there's a need for the policy. The need for the policy may become from something that has changed in society, an emerging threat or a new threat that has come, like COVID-19. The organization decides whether it calls for policy, standard, or guideline, names their sponsors, and a writing group, and completes an impact analysis and get approval to the draft. Then it will go to a policy review and approval, a development review and approval. So after the draft is done, they'll go to sit with some people, they'll vet it, they'll meet with other people, they'll do engagements to be able to show that a wider audience have seen the policy and it's important. It is done. It is well representative of what the organization wants, and then they will send their comments for the governing body to assent to it. When the governing body assents to it, the approved policy is published. Training and awareness campaigns begin. We start doing the rollout activities. Any underlying standards and configurations is put in place. Then there's a schedule for the review of the policy, maybe after every 6 months or after a year. So that one then comes in for the security and compliance team to monitor adherence and see whether people are following the policy as required. Then when the policy becomes obsolete, we retire it. Retire it. So what's important is that in every policy, before we do it, we need to understand there should be conditions that will initiate the policy. So let me show you one. I've been talking about UG, so let me show you one. So let's read this letter together. So he said we should initiate a policy, set up a team, and do a draft. Look at this one. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, the university had to implement online teaching and learning mid-semester of 2019 and 2020 academic year. Also, measures are being taken to migrate the University of Ghana required courses. Those are very large courses that students take. Sometimes there are about 3,000 students taking it from online take it online from the 2020 to 2021 academic year. That means that in that next academic year, we're already going online with these courses. The above actions, since we are going online and we are now going to teach online because of COVID, have been carried out under the regulation of some existing guidelines, but without an overarching policy. The National Accreditation Board, before it became GTEC, in its section 2.1 of the guidelines on assuring quality of online learning in tertiary education teaching Ghana, requires that tertiary institutions running online education programs should have an online learning policy aligned with the mission, vision, and strategic management plan of the institution. A copy of those guidelines is enclosed. Pursuant of that NAB requirement, I hereby constitute the committee to develop the online teaching and learning policy for university. Membership of the committee are Professor Richard Boating, who is the chair at the business school, Ohiba City, member of College of Education, Akasaka Katriku, yes, Ferdinand Katriku, CBAS, that's College of Applied Sciences, Basic and Applied Sciences. But he was from computer science, he was the head of Department of Computer Science. Daniel Trefu, who was the acting director of academic quality assurance. So please forgive me, I'm just tired. Then Dr. Cyril Amwa Buampong, College of Humanities rep. So remember the document said that we should consult to establish, look at what we said here, when we are developing, make sure that it's done, focus on a focus group, IT, legal, HR, security, then by wider audience. before it is proposed. So the team, they are making sure they even have some wider audience. So IT is here, C2 is here. School, and then Director of Academic Affairs, looking at student issues, I see here. Then all the colleges are here: College of Humanities, College of Education, College of Health Sciences, College of Humanities, College of Basic and Applied Sciences. Good. So all of them are here. Identify and review existing guidelines for online teaching and learning. Develop online teaching and learning policy for the university. Now, they say we should do policy. But when we finish, we develop guidelines because the things that were in the document was too detailed. And they realized that even the current policies that were there were staggered, were scattered, and there was no coherence and fragmented. So we need to have one policy that governs the whole thing. So if you look at what we did in terms of the policy document, if you read it very carefully, you realize that in our purpose, when we define this one, that we are doing it as in line with the vision of the university. And we are supposed to do it to provide continuity in the quality and climate of teaching and learning through new and emerging technologies. So these are some objectives that we're going to look at. Training and the provision of adequate support or resource for online learning, setting up of the courses, assessment, monitoring quality and assurance, appropriate technology and vocabulary for online teaching, the security measures for and the maintenance of the infrastructure, the scope, the definitions of what is face-to-face, what is hybrid, all those kind of what is remote learning, the keywords that we use. It's all defined in the abbreviation. Then what other policies are we referring to? These policies are not done in vacuum. They are done in reference to the tenants in policy, the students special needs policy, the sexual harassment policy, and then because harassment can happen in online context too, ethics policy, and then plagiarism policy. Before you go in straight into look at what we covered in the guidelines. Now we should have done the full policy, but we did the guidelines because the current guidelines were already fragmented. Then when we finish our job, later on, people came to develop other ones. And that's what I mentioned as the UG teacher and learning policy in 2026. Now that one, if you look at it very carefully, also reference other ones at the end. So it's saying that related policies, guidelines, and policies that we ensure that the policy on teacher learning is executed successfully. They are used for reference. Academic quality assurance policy, student handbook, guidelines for approval, the handbook for doctoral studies, the handbook for graduate studies, handbook for graduate studies 20 volume 3. Then it goes on to talk about the information and communication policy. You see, there's one there, 2022, the online teaching and learning guideline 2022, policy on plagiarism and other academic misconduct, and then regulations for junior members and student facilities. Recently, there was what vandalism of student facilities after an examination in a senior secondary school or a senior high school. Sorry, research policy, a student handbook, then research ethics. So they refer to all of these ones or the latest version of these. Okay. So you can't just develop the policies in vacuum. You need to be able to make sure that it is being done in cognizance of other things that exist. And then you are also consulting. So for example, when we finish ours, okay, let's go finish here first. So some consideration. Number one, the time, what will trigger it. I showed the example. What is the scope? Are you doing a detailed standard or are you going to be doing what was the name? Um, are you going to be doing a governance framework that is more of a standard or a guideline or a policy itself? Now, how will the documents be drafted, updated, and retired? How are documents drafted, updated, and retired? Which documents can we say it's not needed anymore? What will be the process of retiring them? These are things you should be thinking about. Accessibility. How will people access the document? when you finish, action and who interprets the policy, who is supposed to implement the policy, who is supposed to interpret the policy. There are some things that you should know as a lecturer so that you also are not misguided. Assurance, how is adoption measured? How we check compliance, that people are complying to it, and there are 50% of people are complying to it or 80%. How do we be able to tell? So no matter how detailed your policy is, you need to be able to factor in some of these considerations. Now let's look at a case study from University of Michigan. I give you the Michigan case study. Now, University of Michigan offers a polished reference of how they approve policies. So their policy is quite detailed. And I want us to look at their approval levels before we come in. So there are 5 stations on the road to approval in there. First of all, the policy will be reviewed by the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO, or the Information and Infrastructure Assurance Director. Information and Infrastructure Assurance Director. That's the executive director of that one. So you will review the policy standards and guidelines or the need for them. And then he may work with his team and get some kind of first level writing and send it to the Information and Infrastructure Assurance Council, which has got members from across the different with respect to knowledge on infrastructure in the university, to bring it to them, the council, and the council will look at the governance mechanism that you have developed, whether it's a policy, a standard, or a guideline. They'll look at it and review it. Then when they do, they'll recommend it to the Chief Information Officer, who is the head of IT. He will then go to add his few things such as then approve the guidelines and technical standards and recommend it to the IT Council, that's the Information Technology Council. For that Information Technology Council is campus-wide governance, is for campus-wide governance review for review unit for or body for policy. So they are not just constituted of just IT people, but they are people from different units who sit on that council. University of Ghana, for example, when you develop a policy as or a standard, or as the vice chancellor may set up a committee, the committee will submit a report to the vice chancellor. The vice chancellor will then take that report to BEC, that's Business Executive Committee, which may look like our IT council here, and they will deliberate on it. All the key people there, they deliberate on it, and after some time they'll take it to, and they will tell you to go into corrections. After some time they will tell you to send it to the next level, that's academic board, and it has all the professors in the university there, and it's a broader audience. And when they also look at it and they recommend, then the vice chancellor is now given the mandate to send it to council meeting. Okay. If you have a question, you can ask. So in this particular one, they go to the council, after that they go to the executive committee, the final approval body. Now in that of the policy development structure in University of Michigan, what they do is that the first one, authorization and scope, and then rationale. So who is authorizing this? And the authorization will then define who will be in charge of coordinating this IT policy. And for example, in that university, it sits in the information infrastructure assurance unit. Then who does it refer to? It refers to all those who are on campuses and applies to every user of the new institution, including guest and other sponsored accounts, like guest researchers or visiting researchers and visiting scholars. Guiding principles. I mentioned guiding principles for developing the policy. 1, every policy you are going to develop should start from a compelling need. Have you checked whether it's coming from a compelling need? Yes. University of Ghana one on on e-learning for online learning came from the need of out of COVID and out of other institutional arrangements that we had. So that's check. Number two, the initiation process. Who can initiate the process? In University of Michigan, any unit can initiate. This one, ours was initiated by Vice Chancellor on request of what by NAB or GTEC. GTEC preparation of Vice Chancellor. Vice Chancellor then instituted the team to start work. Now, the policy document, is it going to be, it should issue a practical and sustainable, and she must carry an impact analysis. So what happened is that when our committee started work, we did a review of what is currently there. We also look at other reports people have done concerning their views about e-learning or using Zoom and other platforms to learn. And we use that as a baseline. So for University of Ghana, in ours, for example, some committees have written a whole in business school, have written a whole report on the outcome of using Zoom for and online technology for teaching in the first semester of the of COVID. That's 2019, 2020. No, that's first second semester in March. That time it was second semester. So second semester of COVID of second semester. That's the COVID period, initial period from March to about June there. Using that one to teach what were your outcomes. So we wrote a report, and that became part of the impact assessment that we had to be able to use to inform us in the use of the software, inform us in the use of the policy or the development of the policy. So you should have some baseline information that you may get from any impact assessment. Number two, you should also create measures in which the document itself is open for others to be able to contribute to. So what others do is that they get others to come and experts to come and discuss it and deliberate on it. Like I mentioned, University of Ghana, when you go to academic board, where all the professors in universities are there, they will debate on your document and then they will give you feedback. When you go to business executive committee, those are the ones that the vice chancellor works with. All the key leaders are there. For example, at the business executive committee, the e-learning software guideline, that is where legal flagged that we have to look at the photocopy issues and put in some caveat concerning photocopy, because Corporate Ghana, who is in charge of that in Ghana, had brought a case to us about the fact that we don't follow the law. We are supposed to follow only 3% of the document should be photocopied or 3 pages, but we are doing more, and some of them are doing it openly for others to see and know. So we have to do something about it. Okay. Then you should also make it interactive. Publish it somewhere that others can be able to give comments to it. Now, when you are going to academic board, usually you attach the document to it. So before people can do have read it to come and give their comments. That's one. Number two, recently the Minister of Digitalization humbly also put some policies from NITA on their website so that people could comment on it. And it brought a lot of discussions in the media. But if you can remember, they said they are published the first one, which is the 1.0. But they keep on editing and editing and editing, and now they are about 1.5. The 1.0 is still on the website. That's what we're trying to discuss. Okay. So it should be interactive and transparent, and there should be flexibility. Nobody is forcing to develop a policy from beginning. If a policy will not work, give us a guideline. Then with time, when we understand what is going on, then we bring in a policy. So these are principles that guide you in trying to develop the policy, not the actual steps here. These are guides. So you should know the authorization scope. Then look at the 7 principles that can guide you. Then you should also look at who are the key roles who will use this particular policy, who work on it, and who will ensure that it is managed efficiently. The chief information officer is one who has the responsibility for the IA Council, the first level of formal review to give you feedback. And then policy and compliance staff, they do the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day work, the IT Council and the IT Executive Committee. So every institution will have different ways or which they may go about it. Importantly, we should note that the policy is just the minimum standard. But other institutions, other individual colleges or units, or in the for this one, say university, but in an institution, you may be allowed to be able to develop other ones, other standards that will best suit their work activities. So if let me give an example. You have Noguchi with the University of Ghana. Noguchi does high level research for their genome project and stuff. They may have certain types of high level computing infrastructure to be able to do some AI work on it. Good in terms of computations. Now, that type of infrastructure they have, we may not, other units may not have, business may not have it. So they may have certain standards that help them to manage those infrastructure that will not pertain to us. But we are supposed, in the policy, we are supposed to protect all information technology resources of the university. But when we come to Onoguchi, we may have specified policies that will that will rather respond to what they are doing in a more intimate manner than what we may be doing in other units. That's what I'm just trying to echo here. Okay. So a medical school can demand stronger encryption and tighter access than music school because the data risk is much higher. That's see an example. Now, what you may forbid is that those units may quietly opt down that we won't do this, we won't follow. The university wide line holds everywhere to the weakest college, so that the weakest college never sets in the institution's real security level, so that you don't allow people taking their own decisions and then make us more vulnerable. We don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want that. Okay. Mm. Okay. So let me continue. This is very, very interesting. I don't know whether anybody's learning something from it. On Tuesday, when we're doing it, quite a number of people were chipping in. This class, I don't know whether the rain is worrying, but a few of you have questions. But I was expecting you to do more engagement. Anyway, let's continue. Now I'm going to just show some. I'm just going to show some other information that will help us to see other policies that exist. I think that's more important for us to also look through. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, provider.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So what I'm trying to show you here is different types of IT policies. I'm drawing this one from my book on IT policies and strategy, but I'll give you share the slides with you later too. Now, I want us to appreciate other types of policies since we're doing governance. Okay, so there are different types of policies. In some institutions, there were email policy, security policy, social media policy, bring your own device policy, network policy, web policy, identity policy, copyright policy. Please, does any of you see these things in your organization? Mm. So this is University of
Yes.
Western Michigan University. Which of them do you know in your organization? Which of them? Which of the policies have you heard of?
Data security.
Data security. Okay. What else?
Identity protection.
Sorry, I
Identity
can't hear you.
protection.
Identity protection. Okay, you have seen that one.
Identity protection.
Okay, you have seen that one in your organization. Okay, thank you. Good. To help keep your data identity secure. That's good. Okay. Now, sorry. Mhm. So look at some of this one. Let's electronic communications policy. And look at what they are written, applicable system-wide. And this is for University of California. Electronic communications policy, applicable system-wide. Then they say handling of FBI requests. Some universities, they get FBI requests for them to identify certain computers that have been sharing certain types of information. So how do you handle FBI requests? Instructions for properly handling information requests from FBI or other federal agencies. And it's applied system-wide, everybody. Federal anti-spam law. This one is coming from the country and it's affecting people in the university. Information security. They have their policy. Then records management, they have their policy. The UC, University of California Business and Finance Records Management and Privacy Bulletin establishes system-wide policies on records management and information privacy. Okay, then some of them also have specific policies that could actually be used in a unit. For example, University of California, they have, look at this one, University of California, they have a policy for their office of their president, the president of the university, like vice chancellor's office. So they have this one here they call acceptable use of UCOP is University of California Office of the President. UCOP. They have one for acceptable use of information, then electronic communication, they have electronic message management, assets with consent form, requesting access to an employee email or attachment or computer files. You have a policy to request access to an employee. So IT cannot just enter your computer and check your email. You need permission from the vice chancellor to do so. Interesting. Security requirements for all University of California Office of the President network devices. So this is possible. For example, even in business school, there's the time that we're having COVID, they bought a special dongle for the dean to be able to have internet access beyond the office and even use it at home. So they bought the routers and give them one to the dean, and they kept one. Then sometime before that, they were even using Self-Line. When they were using Self-Line, they came to ask me that I'm the head of IT. I was the head of the department, so the head of the IT committee. They said they have one that they are using at the IT unit. They have one they are giving to the dean dedicated. There's an extra one. Can they give it to me, head of IT? So that I can also use. And would you know one of the reasons why they're doing that? And I could see that these guys were being smart. When the time is up for them to go and buy more data on the Self-Line, they will have to ask permission, and I'll come to have to also sign. So before they will also want to give me one. So they are asking to go and buy data for the dean and then also renew their own. They will also renew my own. See how the trick they were playing. They wanted to make sure that the person who is signing is also party to the beneficiary of the data, so that he will always say, yes, let's buy more data for them. Anyway, sometimes IT, you have to be smart a little bit. Okay, then they also have information security breach notification applicable to the office of the president, and then electronic information security policy, then Active Directory policy, then Linux password policy. Okay, let's look at another one too. Yeah. Now this is IT policies of Highland Bank. Now Highland Bank has an information security policy and they state that your privacy and security is important to us. And they talk about the access ID and password. Within that one, they mention ID theft policy, the private statement that we place highest priority on safeguarding any and all financial information provided to us. What I like about it, one of the policies I like about this is the do not call policy. Highland Bank respects the privacy of all consumers. If you prefer not to receive consumer-related direct marketing or communication from Highland Bank, you need to request that your name is not placed on Highland Bank's do not call list or Highland Bank do not mail list. So you can actually opt out from the phone calls from your bank and do it so that if anything that the bank has to contact you, they have to contact you formally, either via email or something, so that it's a written document, not that somebody is sitting there and then picks up the information and then pretends to be you and collects the information. No, they want to be sure. So you have got opportunity of stopping them from the bank from sending information about you to the about you to any consumer or to yourself. So you, the consumer, say signs up for it. So no information about you be sent. If anybody attempts to do it, that means the person is not you, is impersonating you, and he doesn't know that you have signed up for something like that. Okay, so that's the Highland policy, and then there are also other policies. If you look at general policy of community banker university. So this is a community bank university. They have the E-Side Act policy, a general rule for validity of electronic records and signature for transactions in and affecting interstate or foreign commerce. Now, do you know that in Ghana, the e-sign policy is enshrined within the Electronic Transactions Act that gives legality to signatures, legality to notarizing online documents. It gives legality to it. So if you have not seen it, please try and go to the E-Transactions Act, the Electronic Transaction Act of Ghana. Okay. Then the code of conduct and ethics program. Then they have one of the things that they have that is quite interesting is the overdraft policy, which is also seen as an IT related policy. So you can have a policy that doesn't sit in the IT department, but to concern IT. That's what I wanted to show by showing these ones. For example, the marketing guidelines for provide the guidelines and marketing policy here provide guidelines for management of the bank's marketing information, including development of an annual marketing plan and ongoing decision making. This includes regulatory compliance, geographic limitations, and prohibited activities. Now, if somebody says that do not call or do not mail and you sign up for it, you, the marketing officer, cannot send mailing information without the person requesting for it, whether through the person's personal uh, email or you are calling the person. You are signed do not call, do not mail. So you cannot send information to that person. You cannot even post information to that person unless the person requires it or overturns it. Very good. So sometimes we have policies that may not come up from the IT department, but to come out in the functionality of a service delivery in another activity. And in that delivery, they may need IT support. Now, there's what we call the Sun Security Policy set of policies. It's a website that has a resource for all types of policies. Usually, they are called policy templates that people go and download and then adapt it for the organization. So if you are here and you realize that your firm doesn't have acceptable use policy, you can come to Sun's security templates and download one, modify it to suit your organization. So look at this one. The general ones they have clean decks policy, data breach response policy, disaster recovery plan policy, digital signature acceptance policy, like what I mentioned that is in the Electronic Transactions Act, ethics policy, email policy, pandemic response policy, password construction policy, guidelines, okay, guideline, not policy, password protection policy, security response policy, end user encryption key protection policy. Then they have acquisition policy for network, Bluetooth baseline requirements policy, remote access policy, remote access tools policy, router and switch security policy, wireless communication policy, wireless communication standard. Okay. Somebody said that for why standard here, can't we deduce it from the policy? It depends on the organization. Okay. So all these templates are there. There's even ones on cyber security, application security, and the other ones that they have actually retired. But somebody may have not done experience for removable media policy like pen drives, social engineering awareness policy. It may be helpful to somebody. Yeah. Internet DMZ equipment policy, internet usage policy, mobile device encryption policy, personal communication device and voice mail policy. Hey. Okay. Now, an example of a standard. Some institutions have standards that specify what is required in the classroom. So this is classroom technology in Western University campuses, Western Michigan University campuses. So it's established the standard of what should be in the classroom. And the general classroom is designed for 20 to 49 students. There should be one in terms of equipment, screen, manual, 10 by 16 by 10 format, an HD LCD projector, a Sestron touch panel, a LCD input monitor, a VoIP two-way communication box, three Ethernet connections at the cart, one at the projector, Sestron Crestron control system. It's like something like what you see on our decks in the those of you have gone to a graduate block before. They used to control the screens on the side, they put it on and put it off. All those things are built in the table. Okay. Then the Blu-ray player. Now we don't have DVD player, Blu-ray player. Then you have got a Blu-ray player in the classroom. It's not too much. An HD document camera. Document camera is a camera that's like a photocopier. You put your document on it and you shine it on straight on the screen or onto a touch. Something that you can add, the children can be able to see very easily and they can then work from it. Okay. Then there's an HD document camera. They can be doing scanning and stuff for them. And then audio systems, speakers and amplifiers. An institution like Western Michigan University can actually specify certain things about how to set up screens and what should be possible and what's not possible. How big should it be? How far from it should it be from the decks of the students? All this may be captured inside the document. So, for example, the screen location is determined by locating the screen away from the teaching station. Use the center of the front of the room as a turning point for the edge of the screen. Okay. Then there's email rule, address and use and rules policy. Authority, who is authorizing the campus information security group. History, first issue, December 2012. Last revised, December 24. Last review, December 2012. So you can even say next time, next review, the dates. Related policies, we are also referring to the mass email policy, computing resources acceptable use policy, and the email rules. If you have any information, contact this. So this one, the difference is that they have put the contact information right at the beginning. And then after that, they go to purpose. This document establishes rules for the use of Western Michigan University's email address. Good. Scope. This rule has been developed to encourage the use of official YMU email addresses for conducting official business of the university. The use of other email accounts like Yahoo, Gmail, AOL, Chatter, SBC to conduct official business with students is prohibited. You can't send an email coming from your private email address. This rule applies to all network email engaged in or by all employees, faculty. Okay. This rule applies to work-related email engaged in by all university employees, faculty, and staff. So they've got the rule statements, what you're supposed to obey. And the enforcement, and at the end of the day, they have those who are enforcing, those who are ensuring that the students follow verbatim. Then there's a password policy. This is from a company that I use the pseudonym ABC Company. So they may have a policy that will tell you the password creation, protecting the passwords, or especially together. Then you can also see social media policy. Social media policy starts by giving a context that social matters. Then after that, it may give you why it's important to do one. Okay. But some of these are more informational for people. So they may, at this information state, they may explain to you what is going to be in the social media policy if they want to. But the core policy will focus straight on what the employer wants to do. Our employer is easy to identify with on all of us. It's easy to identify with, and all of us are very passionate about what we can do on a daily basis. At the Adidas Group, we believe in open communication. You are encouraged to tell the world about your work and share passion. Whether you do so by participating in a blog, a wiki, an online social network, or any other form of online publication or discussion, is completely up to you. So there's freedom. However, these new ways of communication are changing the way we talk to each other and even to our consumers, target audiences, and partners. In order to avoid such problems or misunderstandings, we have come up with a few guidelines. So they've set guidelines. So first, please familiarize yourself with the Adidas Group Code Conduct and the Global Policy Manuals. These are mandatory. When you discuss Adidas Group or brand-related matters on the internet, you must identify yourself with your name and when relevant, your role in Adidas. Actually, apparently in the European Union and other countries, if you work in a company like Adidas or Microsoft and you come online, you are doing discussion on technology, you need to state where you work so that they can interpret that you are not putting in biases in your response because you work in a place. Okay. So they may, for example, you can use a disclaimer like the posts on this site are my own and do not necessarily represent the position, strategy, or opinions of Adidas Group and its brands. You are personally responsible for the content you publish on your blogs. So they are stating that one. And they give other rules that you are supposed to follow. Quite a number of them. Then even Reuters, though that media company that covers almost the whole world, they also have their Reuters reporting from internet and using social media. If you report from the internet or based on internet information, how do you protect yourself? Okay, so this is the Reuters one, quite voluminous in this sense. Then there's other, this is a template, an ID theft policy of a bank. That in case somebody steals something, what you should do. So SS Bank maintain the internal controls sufficient to protect customer financial information. Quite a number of these things, you see it on their websites of some of the companies. Technical requirements for a bank website. Okay. Okay. Code of conduct for financial institution. I'm showing different ones quickly so that you can get familiar with them. Bring your own device policy. Some institutions have some. So I've drafted one here, which is an example. Quite a number of them. And then you also have acceptable use of document. This is coming from the SANS security platform. I took that one, I showed as an example. Okay, acceptable use policy. I'll share some of these ones with you, so don't worry. Network connection policy. And then what else can we have here? Web publishing guidelines. So there is a lot of different types of policies. I can't cover all of them, but I just want you to familiarize yourself to know that these are all policies that we may come across in organizations. Now, one of the reasons why it's important that you know them is that in developing a data governance framework, you're not developing the policy for the organization, you're developing the data governance framework in which the policy will become a subset of it in future. So you should know how policy is developed and what goes into policy development. And then when you're developing your data governance framework, you know how far you can take yours and differentiate it from an IT policy. An IT policy. Okay. So thank you very much and staying with me for today. We have been able to cover a lot. We started very early too. Some of you may have be wondering how we got here. Okay, so for what I just talked about, I just want to show a quick video to summarize the policy and their types of policies and stuff. It's a quick video for us to summarize it for us. Good, Stella. Please spend time on the video page that I've been giving the links to you, because there's a lot of content there, and then some of the classes that we finish, we put them there. Make sure you spend time there. There is also summaries in terms of music for the different chapters. The first 2 chapters, one is there. I'll be putting other ones there. You see in the book that you find some of these video songs in there. So please take advantage of it. Okay.
That's perfect.
Okay. So let's look at the IT policy video. IT policy video that talks about different examples of different IT policies. Okay.
When we think of information systems, we tend to picture servers, routers, and code. But raw technology is inherently chaotic. To make it functional for a business, you have to force order onto that digital chaos. That structure comes directly from governance. In his 2024 textbook, Information Technology Policy and Strategy, Professor Boateng outlines a foundational equation. IT consists strictly of hardware, software, and networks, but information systems, IS, is broader, merging that technology with people, processes, and business policies. Policies act as the governing mechanisms holding this equation together. They dictate acceptable behavior, forcing the technological and human elements to align. These policies function as architectural blueprints. They provide employees with clear boundaries and empower them to execute structural business objectives. General organizational policies operate at the macro level. While they are drafted as broad business mandates, they consistently dictate how IT management must operate. We can observe this dynamic by looking at the policy structure of a financial institution like Highland Bank. This document outlines their consumer privacy mandates. Notice the section detailing their do not call policy. On the surface, this is simply a marketing regulation. However, enforcing it requires IT to develop, maintain, and secure a centralized exclusion database for marketing communications. A chief technology officer has to account for these indirect effects. The architecture they build is directly shaped by rules drafted outside their department. An IT department cannot operate in a technical vacuum. In many cases, it must construct infrastructure solely to fulfill macro-level corporate promises. While macro policies dictate broad objectives, an organization still requires highly specific technical defense frameworks to secure the resulting data. The SANS Security Policy Project addresses this need. It is a consensus-driven resource that provides standardized templates, allowing enterprises to rapidly deploy security protocols. This schematic represents the SANS framework, which categorizes digital security into 4 core architectural pillars. The first pillar covers general enterprise-wide rules, establishing standard operating procedures like acceptable use policies and data breach response plans. The second is network security, focusing on securing data in transit, establishing rigid wireless standards, and regulating remote access. Pillar 3 addresses server security. Here, the focus shifts to protecting back-end infrastructure, defining database credentials, and outlining proper equipment disposal. The final pillar is application security, which deals exclusively with protecting front-end user interfaces, particularly web applications. What the SANS framework demonstrates is that corporate security is inherently compartmentalized. No single policy protects a firm. Defense relies entirely on these overlapping architectural pillars working together. But you can build the most secure server infrastructure possible, and it still leaves the most vulnerable variable unaddressed: the human end user. To see how organizations manage user behavior, we can examine Western Michigan University's Rule 08EM.01, which governs official academic email communication. The rule strictly prohibits conducting official business through external accounts like Gmail or Yahoo. Forcing all communication through the university system ensures that every interaction remains auditable and secure. Standard password policies perform a similar function. They mandate complexity criteria to prevent unauthorized individuals from easily bypassing the network defenses outlined in the SANS framework. To enforce these rules, organizations utilize an Employee Information and Technology Security Agreement. This agreement acts as the formal, legally binding acknowledgement. It directly connects the human employee to the technical requirements of the network. The most robust server infrastructure in the world is functionally useless if human behavior isn't explicitly bound by these enforceable user agreements. The perimeter of a network faces constant pressure. External, unverified hardware introduces security chaos that must be heavily filtered before accessing the secure corporate network. This is managed through Bring Your Own Device, or BYOD policies. Company XYZ's template, for example, establishes clear rules for managing personal smartphones and tablets in the workplace. A complete BYOD program requires 3 critical components: software to manage the connecting devices, a written policy outlining employer and user responsibilities, and a signed agreement acknowledging those rules. Similar strictures apply to general network connection policies. Brown University mandates that all connected devices must run updated antivirus software and install the most recent security patches immediately. But organizations must also plan for when preventative measures fail, relying on reactive frameworks like ID theft and data breach response programs used by financial institutions. These breach policies establish an internal reporting process. Their purpose is to assess the exact scope of the compromised data and ensure the proper disposal of sensitive consumer information. Finally, web publishing and social media guidelines restrict access at the public interface. They explicitly authorize exactly who is allowed to alter the firm's outward-facing digital assets. Ultimately, these edge policies act as a strict operational filter. They allow a business to utilize modern flexibilities, like personal smartphones, without compromising the rigid integrity of the core network. We have looked at a wide spectrum of governance, spanning from the macro business mandates at Highland Bank down to the micro email rules at Western Michigan University. To implement all of these effectively, an organization classifies them into a strict hierarchy of governing mechanisms. At the top is policy. This is the highest governing mechanism, strictly dictating what is or is not done. Below that is strategy. This defines the specific methodology the organization will utilize to achieve the objectives set by the policy. Next are standards. These are highly specific, mandatory tactical rules, such as Brown University's strict antivirus patch requirements. At the base are guidelines, which function as non-mandatory advisory best practice statements. This hierarchy directly maps onto the organizational management structure. Standard rules and their tactical implementation are primarily developed and executed at the middle management level. However, the actual overarching policies only come into effect after top or senior management provides explicit authorization. Ultimately, IT policies serve as the supreme boundaries of acceptable behavior. They are engineered by executive leadership to establish order, protect data, and advance the business objectives of the modern enterprise.
Hello, Prof.
Hello, Prof. The video is done.
Okay. Okay. There's nobody's having anything to say. Does anybody have anything to say? Any comment? I finished the video, so I have finished my part.
Yeah.
David, your hand is up. Yeah, you had something.
Yeah.
You want to say bye?
No, no.
Hey.
Just want to thank you for today's session. I think it's been eye-opening from our end too as well. Um, I think some of the things how we started from, like we don't take some of the policies serious, and they might be asking a lot from us without our knowledge. But just like also like this video, one of the things that actually came up is like the structure of it, because I feel like now modern day companies just start their business without any policies at all. Because from the video, it
Yeah,
actually shows that some of these policies are supposed to guide how the IT team is supposed to structure their processes. So it's
yes,
from that process that you are able to kind of like run the business, right? But
yes, please.
I mean, modern day, and I get maybe for startups because they are just starting, because more of these policies will be seen as more of the macro, as it says, or like even like those kind of big companies. But still, the importance of like creating a policy and being bounded to it will let you like structure it very, very well. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, startups grow differently, and as they grow, they may even sell. They may split it up. So they are
Mm-hmm.
not well structured in their policy dimension when they are coming up. They are in
Yeah,
more, a lot of times they are in a creative phase, are trying different models to see what will work.
yeah.
Mhm. But still, you may need a policy if you are going for venture capital money. Somebody's giving
VC,
you $20 billion and you are three boys sitting behind a computer. Mhm.
software
Yes,
developers.
Yes, go ahead.
So I wanted to know the difference between the policies and the terms of use.
Terms of use of what?
Let's say for a particular internet usage, there may be policies that govern it, and there might be terms of use for the internet. So I want to understand the
Terms
difference.
of rules is terms of rules. If it's mandatory, is rules. So we put them as standards.
Uh,
Yeah, if it is mandatory, if it's not mandatory, then they are guidelines. If it's a step by
Okay.
step, then it's a procedure. Do you understand it? But most terms of
Yes, please.
use are mandatory. So there are going to be rules or standards.
Okay. Thank you.
Because they are more specific to a software. That's why they are, I won't call them policies, I call them standards. They are specific to a particular activity or artifact or equipment. Is that understandable? Yeah.
Yes, please. Prof, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So it's understandable.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you very much, sir.
Well, okay, well, but it's a good question, very good question.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to it that most of these
Oh,
policies
somebody has put
regards
it in
to,
the chat room that the terms of use is rules. That's David. Okay, so it's good. I didn't even see it. Yeah, well, let's continue.
okay, the data protection law and then the policy of communication and then uh, usage of the media was part of the bill which was passed from Parliament. So we have the law which protects that. So if any of us can get it, I will try to share if I have it. I get it from my archives and then share with
Which
colleagues.
of them? The Data Protection Act is already there. Which of them are you talking about?
Yeah,
The
is
communication
the act,
something?
the act, and then the policy is there. So I'll see if I can share it.
After the act, it's already online. If you're talking about Act
But
772, it's already there.
there was a policy which was behind, and that brought about the Supreme Court asking most of us from our agencies under the statistics unit to swear an oath to keep data. So I think I will try to get
Oh,
the
okay.
document and share.
Then share that one. Then share that one with us.
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much. I didn't know this background. Thank you very much. I didn't know this background, but the data protection, the Data Protection Act is there. Anybody can just go online, just say Data Act 843 and go to NITA's website. You get it. And then the one for AI too is there. The University of Ghana's AI policy too, I'll share it with you in the Sakao platform. Okay. Thank you very much. But this is a very important document to look at. That's one in the Cybersecurity Act. Okay. So thank you very much and good evening. Hey, Dr. Echo, say good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Prof.
Okay then. So tomorrow you have on-campus sessions. I hope the rain will not keep you at home.
God willing.
We will have rain at some point in some parts. That's it.
Hey,
Oh,
weatherman.
okay. Okay then. Good evening.